The heavy oak door of my apartment clicked shut, the sound echoing the finality of my workday. I leaned against it, kicking off my steel-toed boots one by one. They hit the hardwood floor with a dull thud. Every muscle in my back and shoulders screamed in protest. Restoring the Bradshaw house was less a job and more an archaeological dig into 19th century neglect. I'd spent the last 10 hours on a scaffold, meticulously reinforcing cantilevered joists that had been rotting for 50 years. My hands were raw, caked with plaster dust and wood stain. I moved through my quiet loft, the satisfaction of a job well done warring with sheer exhaustion. I headed straight for the kitchen, pulling the cork from a bottle of Cabernet. I didn't bother letting it breathe. I didn't care about bouquet or finish. I just needed the burn. I poured a heavy glass, the dark liquid swirling. My phone, discarded on the granite countertop, buzzed. I ignored it. It was probably Martin, my colleague, sending me another article on obscure Victorian building codes. I took the glass and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Detroit skyline. The lights were just beginning to glitter against the deepening twilight. My phone buzzed again, and again, a persistent, nagging rhythm. I sighed, setting the wine down. A text from my neighbor, Mrs. Hamilton, flashed on the screen. "Thinking of you, dear. Call me if you need anything." Strange. Another text, this one from my friend Juliet. "Diana, call me now." A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. I unlocked the phone, my thumb swiping to open Instagram. And I froze. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The first image was a candid shot. My sister, Noelle, was draped in white satin, her face glowing beneath a delicate veil. She was standing in a bridal boutique, my mother, Clarissa, beaming beside her, adjusting the train. The caption read, "Final fitting for my baby girl. Randall wedding mother of the bride." My breath hitched. Randall? Wedding? I tapped Noelle's profile. It was private, but the profile picture was new. Noelle and some guy I'd never seen before, his arm draped possessively around her, her hand flashing a diamond the size of a headlight. I went back to my feed, and my blood ran cold. The algorithm, sensing my interest, unleashed the flood. A photo from my Aunt Rebecca, raising a champagne flute. To Noelle and Trent, so happy to welcome this wonderful man to our family. A video posted by my cousin, bridesmaid dress shopping. Can't believe my little cousin is getting married. Photos of flower arrangements, photos of cake tastings, photos of my father, Henry, standing awkwardly next to his future son-in-law, Trent, at what looked like an engagement party. A party I hadn't known about. My thumb stopped on a professionally shot portrait. My entire family, Mom, Dad, Noelle, her 2 kids, Eliza and Liam, Aunt Rebecca, cousins, all posed together, smiling. The caption, "The whole family celebrating Noelle and Trent, just 1 month to go." The whole family, everyone but me. I clicked on the venue's tagged location, the Riverbend Estate, an exclusive, obscenely expensive place. Comments flooded every post. "Can't wait to celebrate." "The invitations are beautiful. See you all there." An invitation I never received. I wasn't just forgotten. This was deliberate. This was an erasure. My phone rang, making me jump. Clarissa Anderson, of course. Perfect timing. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, and pressed accept. "Diana, honey, I was just thinking about you." Her voice was light, breezy, utterly fake. "Were you?" I kept my own voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Because I was just looking at Instagram." The silence on the other end was immediate and heavy. Then a theatrical sigh. "Oh, that. Honey, I was going to call you. It all just happened so fast." "Fast?" I walked back to the window, staring at the indifferent city lights. "It looks like it's been happening for months. You're fitting dresses, Clarissa. The wedding is next month." "Don't take that tone with me," she snapped, the practiced warmth vanishing. "You know how sensitive Noelle is. We didn't want to overwhelm her." "Sensitive?" I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. What does her sensitivity have to do with inviting me to her wedding? Well, honestly, Diana, you're always so buried in that career of yours, she said, her voice dripping with disapproval. You're rebuilding old houses. You're always covered in dirt. Noelle felt you wouldn't even make time. And Trent, well, Trent is very protective of her. Trent, the guy I've never met. He gets a say. He's her fiancé. And he thinks family is important. The irony of that statement was so bitter, it almost made me gag. And I'm not family? Is that it? After I paid off her $22,000 business loan last year? The one she just walked away from? She had the children to think about. Clarissa's voice hardened. Unlike you, she can't just think about herself. Single motherhood isn't easy. She wasn't a single mother when I co-signed that loan, Clarissa. And she wasn't a single mother when I paid the bank every month after she defaulted. You're making this about money, and it's not. It's about Noelle's happiness. Now I have to go. We're finalizing the seating charts. The line clicked dead. Seating charts. For a wedding I wasn't invited to. I stared at my phone, the screen now dark. I had been the responsible one, the fixer, the family ATM, my entire life. And my reward was to be erased. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't family. Juliet, I just saw your cousin's story. What the hell is going on? Why aren't you in these pictures? Martin, hey, saw your mom's post. That's rough. You okay? Even Mrs. Hamilton, my elderly neighbor, texted again. Dear, I saw the most lovely wedding announcement for your sister. I assume your invitation just got lost in the mail? The humiliation burned hotter than the anger. It was public. They hadn't just excluded me. They had broadcasted my exclusion to the world. Everyone on the periphery of my life could see the hole where I was supposed to be. I sank into my armchair, the wine forgotten. My gaze fell on the phone. For 35 years, I had been the family's structural support. I was the load-bearing wall holding up their crumbling facades. I was the one who fixed the broken things, paid the hidden debts, and absorbed the emotional blows, all while being told I was too strong to need help myself, and they had just demolished me. My thumb moved with a sudden, cold precision. I opened my contacts and found Clarissa. Block. Henry. Block. Aunt Rebecca. Block. I went back to Instagram. Noelle. Unfollow. My mother. Unfollow. My father. My cousins. Every last one of them. Tap. Unfollow. Tap. Unfollow. Each press of my finger felt like setting down a 1,000-pound weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. This wasn't a fit of pique. It wasn't revenge. It was a structural assessment. The foundation was toxic, and I was condemning the building. I turned the phone off completely and set it face down. I sat in the gathering darkness, my living room plunging into shadow, and for the first time in my life, I felt the unmistakable, terrifying and exhilarating silence of freedom. 3 days passed. 3 days of silence. I went to work. I climbed the scaffolding at the Bradshaw house. I focused on the tangible, on the solvable problems of wood and plaster. My phone, when I turned it back on, was a war zone of missed calls and voicemails. Clarissa, her tone shifting from indignant to saccharine. Diana, honey, this has all been a misunderstanding. Call me. Then furious. Are you really blocking your own mother? After all I've done for you? Then tearful. You're breaking my heart, Diana. You're tearing this family apart. I deleted them all without listening past the first few seconds. The drive from my loft in Detroit to my parents' Victorian in Bloomfield was 45 minutes, but it felt like crossing a hostile border. I drove, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I wasn't going there to beg for an invitation. I wasn't going to plead my case. I was going for an answer, a real one. I'd spent my life accepting their flimsy excuses and paper-thin justifications. Today, I wanted the truth, no matter how ugly. I wanted to hear it from their mouths. I pulled onto the familiar tree-lined street. The house stood on the corner, a 3-story confection of gingerbread trim and stained glass. It was the house I grew up in, the house I still loved, the house whose faulty wiring and sagging porch I had diagnosed and offered to fix a dozen times, only to be waved off. I parked at the curb, not pulling into the driveway, a small, symbolic act. I was a visitor here, not family. As I walked up the cracked flagstone path, the garage door was open. My father, Henry, was hunched over the engine of his 1967 Mustang, the same car he'd been restoring for my entire adult life. He spotted me. His head snapped up and his eyes, wide with something that looked like panic, darted from me to the house and back. He wiped his greasy hands on a rag, his shoulders tensing. "Diana," he mumbled, not as a greeting but as a warning. "Henry." He took a half-step back, deeper into the shadows of the garage. "Your mother's inside." "Of course she is." He wouldn't look at me. He just turned back to the engine, pretending to tighten a bolt that didn't need tightening. The family cowered, hiding behind his projects, just as he always had. He would not stand beside me. He would not stand against her. He would simply vanish. I turned my back on him and walked to the front porch. I didn't knock. I opened the screen door and walked in. The house smelled of cinnamon and brewing coffee. Clarissa's emotional armor. She emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron, her face arranged in a mask of careful concern. "Diana." "Oh, honey, I'm so glad you came. I was just about to call you again. I made your favorite coffee cake." "I don't want coffee cake, Clarissa." I stayed in the entryway, my boots planted on the rug. My work bag was still slung over my shoulder. I wasn't staying. "I want to know why I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding." Her smile faltered, the carefully constructed mask cracking for a half-second before she rebuilt it. "Oh, honey, it's so complicated. You've just been so focused on your career and Noelle." "Don't!" The word was sharp, slicing through her prepared speech. "Don't you dare blame my career. That's not a reason. That's an excuse." She flinched. She busied herself with the coffee pot, her back to me, buying time. Noelle was... She was afraid, Diana. Afraid you wouldn't approve of Trent. You can be so... intimidating. "Intimidating?" I laughed. "Because I asked him what he did for a living. Because I asked him how he met her after she'd only known him for 3 weeks." "He thinks family is important," she repeated, the line sounding rehearsed. She set 2 mugs on the counter with a hand that trembled slightly. "And you've always been so... independent. You never need us." The garage door slammed and my father shuffled in, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Clarissa, don't," he muttered. "Don't what, Henry?" I turned on him. "Don't tell the truth." "Don't make things harder than they are," he mumbled, still refusing to meet my eyes. "Harder for who?" My voice was rising, a cold fury building in my chest. "Harder for Noelle? Harder for you two who have to keep spinning this web of lies? Or harder for Trent, the guy who's actually pulling the strings?" The silence that followed was my answer. Clarissa's face went pale. Henry just stared at his shoes. It was him, wasn't it? I stepped closer to them. The guy she's known for a few months. "He didn't want me there." He feels you don't care about this family," Clarissa whispered, as if confessing a sin. He said your absence at family events spoke volumes, and he didn't want that kind of energy at their wedding." "My absence?" I looked from her to my father. "I was absent because I was working 60-hour weeks to pay off the $22,000 loan you begged me to co-sign for her, the one she defaulted on to go to Sedona with her friends." "That's not fair." Clarissa's eyes filled with practiced tears. "She was recovering. Eric left her with 2 children. Eric left her 4 years ago," I shouted, the dam of my composure finally breaking. "The cafe fiasco was last year. I have been making those payments plus interest while she posts pictures of her new car. I babysat Eliza and Liam every single weekend for 3 months so she could find herself and go on dates. I was the one who listened to her cry about Eric at 2 in the morning, night after night. I was breathing hard, the words hanging in the cinnamon-scented air. And this is what I get? To be uninvited from her wedding because her new meal ticket thinks I don't care? "You're stronger, Diana," Clarissa said, her voice dropping as if this was a compliment. "You've always been the responsible one. You can handle this. Noelle, she can't. She deserves this chance at stability. Trent has a good job. He can provide for her and the children." That was it. The final, brutal truth. I wasn't just the fixer. I was the family ATM, the free therapist, the emergency babysitter. And now I was an embarrassment, a liability to be hidden from the new, wealthy addition to the family. I looked at my mother's tear-streaked, manipulative face. I looked at my father, a coward hiding in his own kitchen. "I'm done," I said, my voice suddenly quiet. The exhaustion returned, heavier than any timber beam I'd ever lifted. "Diana, please," Clarissa said, reaching for me. I pulled my arm back as if from a fire. "Don't touch me." I turned and walked to the door. "Where are you going?" Henry asked, his voice cracking with a pathetic hint of alarm. "Away!" I opened the screen door, the spring groaning in protest. If Noelle and Trent want a perfect family, they can have it, without me. I walked away, leaving them standing in the doorway, their faces a mask of confusion, as if they truly could not comprehend that this time the responsible one wasn't going to clean up the mess. I drove straight to the cobblestone cafe, my hands shaking on the wheel. Juliet was already there, a latte waiting for me in our usual booth. She worked the morning shift and had been texting me nonstop. "That bad, huh?" she asked, sliding in opposite me as I dropped my bag. "Worse." I wrapped my cold hands around the warm mug. "It was Trent's idea. He doesn't think I care about family. My parents, they just rolled over. They agreed." "Trent," Juliet snorted, her anger a welcome contrast to my cold emptiness. "The guy who's known your sister for 5 minutes? He gets to decide who's family? That's insane." "Apparently, it's not. It's done. They're all in on it. They chose him." "Yeah, well, they chose a real winner." Juliet's face hardened. She picked up her phone from the table. "Speaking of Trent." She slid the phone across to me. "My roommate Kelly was bartending at a downtown lounge last night. She sent me these." The first photo was blurry, but clear enough. Trent Randall, his arm wrapped tightly around a blonde woman who was definitely not Noelle. They were laughing, heads bent close together. The second photo, his lips were pressed against her neck. The third, they were leaving the bar together, his hand low on her back. When was this? My stomach tightened, not with shock, but with a sickening, bitter confirmation. Last night, around 11, while Noelle was probably at home with her kids, addressing wedding invitations. I pushed the phone back across the table. "So," Juliet said, leaning forward, "what are you going to do? Send them to Noelle? Send them to your mother? This is your silver bullet, Di. You can stop this whole sham of a wedding." I looked at the phone, at the digital proof of his betrayal. The old Diana would have snatched it up. The old Diana would have charged back to Bloomfield, evidence in hand, ready to save Noelle from her own terrible decision. The old Diana would have taken the brunt of the fallout. Noelle would have screamed at me. Clarissa would have accused me of being jealous, of trying to ruin Noelle's happiness. I would have been the bad guy. Again. "No," I said. The word felt strange, but right. Juliet blinked. "No? Diana, he's a cheater. She's about to marry this guy." "She's about to marry him at a wedding I'm not invited to," I said, sipping the latte. It was cold. A wedding that I was banned from at his request. "But this isn't about you. This is about him being a scumbag." "Everything with them is always about me, don't you see?" I met her gaze. "I've spent my entire life being the family safety net. I've spent 35 years fixing Noelle's messes. And look where it's gotten me. I'm excluded, I'm erased, and I'm still paying off her last disaster. So you're just going to let it happen? I'm not doing anything, I said, a new cold certainty settling in my chest. I'm not interfering. I'm not saving her. She made her choice. She chose the guy she's known for 3 weeks over the sister she's had for 35 years. She can have him. Diana, it's what I have to do, Juliet, to save myself. I stood up, pulling my bag onto my shoulder. I'm not invited, remember? It's not my place to interfere. Juliet just stared at me, a look of shocked understanding on her face. This isn't you. Maybe it should be, I replied. I can't rescue someone who doesn't want to be saved. I walked out of the cafe, the discomfort of inaction sitting heavy in my stomach, but beneath it, for the first time, ran a deep, powerful current of relief. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of the loudest silence I had ever experienced. I buried myself in the Bradshaw house, working weekends, my hands bleeding into my work gloves. I didn't check social media. I didn't answer texts from extended family. Then the wedding day arrived, a sunny, perfect Saturday in June. I stayed home. I organized my workshop. I drafted blueprints for a new project. I did everything I could to not think about the party happening across town at the Riverbend estate. That evening, I poured myself a glass of Cabernet and settled into my window seat, a dog-eared copy of Restoration Ethics on my lap. My phone, which I deliberately left on the coffee table, began to buzz. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. And again, rattling against the wood in a frantic, desperate rhythm that set my teeth on edge. It wasn't one person, it was everyone. My book fell to the floor. I picked up the phone. 32 notifications, all in the last 5 minutes. My thumb hovered, then swiped. The screen lit up with a video, shaky footage from inside a grand ballroom, white roses everywhere, gold chairs, guests in tuxedos and gowns, clustered against the walls, their faces masks of horror, and in the center, Noelle and Trent. My sister's face was a ruin of black mascara, her perfect white dress crushed in her fists. She was screaming, a sound I couldn't make out over the din. Trent towered over her, his tuxedo jacket open, his tie gone. His face was purple with rage. "You set me up," he roared, his voice cracking through my phone speaker. "You knew, you let them show that." "Everyone knew, you pig," Noelle shrieked, lunging at him, shoving his chest. "You weren't exactly discreet." Then it happened. Trent's arm swung out, his open palm connected with my sister's cheek. The sound was a sharp, ugly crack that echoed through the ballroom, silencing the music. Gasps erupted. The camera shook violently as the person filming recoiled. "Oh my God," I whispered. My hand flew to my mouth. The video ended. I frantically scrolled. My phone was a cascade of panicked messages. Juliet. "Diana, are you seeing this?" Martin. "Holy hell, just saw the Randall Anderson disaster on Instagram Live. Your family is... wow. Call if you need to." Mrs. Hamilton. "Dear, please turn on Channel 9. Your family is on the news." My fingers fumbled as I opened the local news app. The breaking story was already at the top. Society wedding at Riverbend Estate ends in assault charges. The footage played again, this time from a professional news camera outside. Police cars, lights flashing, were pulling up the long, manicured drive. Then, the shaky phone video from inside played again, this time from a different, clearer angle. I saw my mother in the background, her hands over her mouth, her face a mask of disbelief. I saw my father, Henry, rushing forward, only to be held back by 2 other men in tuxedos. The anchor's voice cut in, crisp and professional. Police were called to the prestigious Riverbend estate this evening after the groom, Travis Randall, allegedly assaulted the bride, Noelle Anderson, during the wedding reception. Witnesses report the altercation began after allegations of infidelity were made public. I snapped the phone off, tossing it onto the couch cushion beside me. My pulse hammered in my throat. I felt sick. A small, dark part of me felt a twisted vindication, but it was swallowed instantly by a wave of genuine, horrified concern for Noelle. No matter what she had done, no matter how deep the betrayal, she was still my sister, and I had just watched her be struck on her wedding day. I drained my wine glass, refilled it, and waited. I knew what was coming next. It came at 11:47 p.m. My phone lit up the dark room. Clarissa Anderson. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. I took a deep breath, composing myself, pushing down the sickening cocktail of anger and pity. On the 4th ring, I answered. Mom. A raw, choking sob erupted from the other end. Diana. Oh, Diana. Her voice was thin, broken, stripped of all its manipulation. Your sister. She's hurt. He hit her. The police are here. It's a nightmare. Diana, please. Come. We need you. She needs you. I closed my eyes. The words I had said 1,000 times before were poised on my tongue. I'll be right there. I'll fix it. I'm on my way. But something stopped me. The memory of scrolling through their happy, exclusive wedding photos. The memory of my mother's cold, dismissive voice. You're always so busy with your career. The memory of my father hiding in the garage. The reveal. Trent thinks family is important. I wasn't invited, Mom, I said. My voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. The sobbing on the other end stopped instantly. A stunned, profound silence stretched between us. I could hear her sharp, hitched breathing. What did you say? She whispered. I wasn't invited, I repeated, a little stronger. I was told I wasn't welcome. I'm not coming, Mom. Showing up now would only make it worse. But she's your sister. She needs you. Clarissa's voice was rising, hysterical. She always needed you. You're the strong one. No, I corrected her, my voice gentle but firm. She needed Trent. She needed security and a fairy tale wedding at the Riverbend estate. What she needed from me was my absence. You all made that very clear. That's not fair, Diana. This is different. I know it's not fair. I stared out the window at the peaceful, distant lights. Neither was excluding me from my own sister's wedding. Neither was paying off her $22,000 debt and then being told I don't care about family. More silence. I could almost see her face, the gears turning, her mind scrambling to find the leverage that had always worked before, the guilt, the responsibility, the family card. But the deck was empty. I had burned the cards. I'm sorry about what happened to her, I added, and I meant it. Truly, no one deserves that. But I'm not the solution this time. I can't be. The line went dead. She didn't say goodbye. She just hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, feeling a fundamental tectonic plate shift inside me. For the first time in my life, I had refused to rush into the fire. The absence of panic, of the frantic need to fix, was as surprising as it was profound. That night, I slept for 8 straight hours, deeper than I had in years. The next evening, I was home from work, covered in a fresh layer of plaster dust, when a frantic knock echoed through my apartment. I wasn't expecting anyone. Juliet was working, and I had ignored the dozens of new texts from extended family. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. It was my father, Henry. He was standing on my doorstep, soaked to the bone from a sudden summer downpour. He didn't have an umbrella. Water streamed from his silver hair, plastering it to his scalp. He looked 10 years older than he had 3 weeks ago. He looked broken. Diana, he called, his voice muffled through the heavy door. Please, I know you're in there. I need to talk to you. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, my eyes closed. Part of me, the new, hardened part, wanted to leave him there, wanted to let him stand in the rain and feel what abandonment tasted like. But his slumped shoulders, the sheer, pathetic misery of him, pulled at something old and ingrained. With a heavy sigh, I turned the deadbolt and opened the door. He flinched, as if expecting me to yell. "You have 10 minutes, I said, stepping aside. "And this better not be about Noelle." He stumbled in, dripping rainwater onto the entry rug. He was shaking, either from cold or fear. It's not about Noelle, Diana, it's worse. Worse than your daughter being assaulted at her own wedding and becoming a local news story." He pulled a thick, damp manila envelope from inside his jacket. "The bank," he whispered, his voice cracking. "They're foreclosing on the house, on the Bloomfield house." My hand froze on the doorknob. "Foreclosure? What are you talking about? You've owned that house for 35 years. You told me the mortgage was almost paid off." "We lied," he choked out, finally meeting my eyes. "Diana, we've been lying to you for 4 years." "What lie, Henry?" I closed the door, a new cold dread creeping up my spine, worse than the anger, worse than the humiliation. "The money," he said, holding out the damp envelope. "The money you've been sending. Every month." For 4 years, I'd been sending $100 a month. 4 years ago, Clarissa had called me, crying, saying they'd had to do emergency foundation work and were struggling. It was for the mortgage, to help them keep the house. "What about the money?" I asked, not taking the envelope. "It wasn't for the mortgage, not the main one." He was trembling, looking at the door as if expecting Clarissa to burst in. "It was a HELOC, Diana, a home equity line of credit. We took it out." "You took out a second mortgage? For how much?" "A lot," he whispered. And the payments. "We used your money for the payments, but we missed some. And after the wedding fiasco hit the news. Trent's family is very influential. He called in favors. Our loan was reviewed, and now—" His phone buzzed in his pocket. He jumped, pulling it out. His face went white. It was Clarissa. I have to go," he stammered, shoving the envelope into my hands. "She can't know I'm here. Diana, just look at it. I'm so sorry." He fumbled with the doorknob, opened the door, and practically ran back out into the rain, leaving me standing in my entryway, holding a damp envelope that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I dropped the envelope on my kitchen counter as if it were contaminated. I stared at it, my mind racing. A HELOC, 4 years, $100 a month. I did the math in my head, $52,800. And that was just my money. I didn't know what to do. This was beyond family drama. This was something else, something uglier. I picked up my phone and called the only person I could think of who was pragmatic, level-headed, and completely outside my family's toxic orbit. "Martin? Diana? Hey, I was worried. You good?" "No," I said, my voice shaking. "Martin, I think my parents committed some kind of fraud, and I think they used my money to do it." There was a pause on the line. When Martin spoke again, his voice was different. All traces of work colleague casualness were gone. It was cold, sharp, and focused. "Tell me everything, Diana," I explained. "The monthly payments, the mortgage story, my father's panicked confession about a HELOC and a foreclosure." "My cousin," Martin said, his voice flat. "My cousin did the same thing to my aunt, forged her signature on a HELOC, drained the equity from her house, and left her with the bill. She lost everything. My family, we were ruined by this." I sat down, stunned. "Martin, I had no idea." "People don't talk about it," he said, his voice tight with an old anger. "It's the family secret, the shame. These people, they use your love and your trust as a weapon. They know you won't call the police. Okay, I'm in this. We're going to find out what they did. What can we do? I have a friend from college who's a VP at that bank's regional headquarters. I'm calling him, right now. He owes me a favor. I'm going to get him to pull the loan documents. All of them. Give me an hour." He hung up. I sat in my kitchen, my heart hammering, the damp envelope sitting on the counter like a bomb. An hour later, my email pinged. It was from Martin. Subject: "We've got a problem. a big one. Attached was a PDF. It wasn't the full packet, but it was the loan summary and the signature page. My father hadn't been lying. A home equity line of credit for $195,000, taken out 4 years ago. The co-signers, Clarissa Anderson and Noelle Anderson. But the details were what made me sick. Noelle's address was listed as the Bloomfield Victorian. She hadn't lived there in over a decade, and her employment was listed as business manager at the cafe, the one that failed, the one I had paid the loan for. They hadn't just taken out a loan, they had falsified the application. Bank fraud. They roped Noelle into it, I whispered, printing the pages. No, Martin's voice said from my phone. He had called me back immediately. Look at the signature. Does that look like Noelle's? I looked closer. It was loopy, practiced, but it looks like Clarissa's handwriting. Exactly, Martin said. I think your mother forged your sister's signature, too. She implicated Noelle to spread the blame. Diana, this is bad. This is federal crime, bad. My blood ran cold. I stared at the papers in my hand. This was the proof. This was the leverage. This was the end. I'm going there, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm confronting her. Diana, wait, Martin said. Don't go in hot. We need the full packet, the certified one. Let me get that first. I don't care, I said, fury overtaking reason. She needs to see this. She needs to know I know. I hung up, grabbed the printed out papers, and stormed out of my apartment. I drove to Bloomfield, breaking every speed limit. I didn't care. The $195,000 flashed in my mind over and over. The lies, the manipulation, the theft. I slammed the car into park and marched up the walk, not even bothering to knock. I used my old key, still on my keyring, and burst into the house. Clarissa was in the living room on the phone, looking perfectly calm. When she saw me, her face tightened. I'll have to call you back, she said, hanging up. What is this? I threw the printed out pages onto the coffee table in front of her. The HELOC agreement, the fraudulent application. She didn't even look at them. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, I shouted. $195,000. You took out a loan, you lied about it, and you've been using my money to pay for it. You committed bank fraud, Mom. You forged Noelle's signature. Clarissa's eyes narrowed. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're hysterical, just like at the wedding. Oh, I'm hysterical. I tapped the paper. It's all right here, Clarissa. The foreclosure notice, the forged signature, the fake address. I have the proof. She looked at me, a long, cold, calculating look. Then her expression changed. Her hand went to her chest. Her eyes widened in what looked like genuine terror. She gasped, a high, thin sound. My chest, she wheezed, slumping over on the couch. I can't breathe. Mom? My anger vanished, replaced by a jolt of panic. Stop it, you're faking. Please, she whispered, her face going pale. Diana, help me. 911. Oh my God. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking. Was she having a heart attack? I turned my back to her, dialing 911. Yes, I need an ambulance. My mother is... She's clutching her chest. She can't breathe. I heard a sound behind me, a rustle of paper. I spun around. Clarissa was standing up, perfectly fine. In her hand was the stack of papers I had brought. Her face was no longer pale. It was set in a mask of pure, triumphant malice. You faked it, I whispered, my phone still in my hand. You always were so gullible, Diana, she sneered. She walked calmly to the fireplace, tore the papers into pieces, and threw them onto the grate. She picked up a lighter from the mantel and lit the corner. No, I lunged, but it was too late. The papers curled and blackened, the signatures and account numbers disappearing into smoke. I stared, horrified. That was my only proof. Clarissa smoothed her shirt, a small, cold smirk playing on her lips. What proof? She asked. I don't see any proof. All I see is my ungrateful, hysterical daughter, trespassing in my home and making wild accusations. She walked to the front door and opened it. Get out. And if you ever come back here with your fantasies, I'll call the police. I stood there, shaking with a rage so profound I couldn't even speak. I had lost. I had the advantage, and I had lost it. I walked out, her cold, mocking laughter following me down the path. I sat in my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my whole body shaking. I had been so stupid, so impulsive. I had played right into her hands. I had no proof, no leverage, nothing. My phone rang. It was Martin. I answered, my voice a hoarse whisper. She burned them. She faked a heart attack, and I fell for it. She burned the papers, Martin. All of it. What did she burn? Martin asked, his voice completely terrifyingly calm. The printouts, the loan agreement, the signature page, the proof. I heard him sigh. Diana, what did I tell you? You went in hot. You can't fight a snake by waving a dead mouse at it. You have to cut off its head. It's over, Martin. I have nothing. Stop, he commanded. Stop talking. Did you think I was stupid? Did you think I'd send my friend into a fight with a paper sword? Those printouts were a test, and your mother failed spectacularly. I sat up. What? What are you talking about? I told you I was getting the certified packet. My contact pulled it this morning. The entire loan file. Every application page, every internal note, every signature, all of it certified by the bank's legal department as a true and correct copy. It's court admissible, Diana. It's not a printout. It's a weapon. I couldn't breathe. You have it? It's sitting on my desk right now. I'm bringing it to you. Now stop panicking and start thinking. You don't get a second chance at this. We're not confronting her. We're ending this. Call a meeting, get your father and your sister there, and get a witness you trust. We're going to do this right. He was right. I wasn't just an ally. He was a strategist, and he had just handed me back the war. A family meeting? Aunt Rebecca's voice was sharp over the phone. Diana, after what I saw at that wedding, I'm not sure this family knows how to have a meeting. It sounds more like a hostage negotiation. That's why I need you, Aunt Rebecca, I said. You're the only one who ever tells the truth. You're Dad's sister, and you're the only one Mom ever, respects. I need an impartial mediator. Fine, she sighed. But if Clarissa starts with her crocodile tears, I'm leaving. That's all I ask, I called my father next. Henry, I'm having a meeting at my apartment tomorrow at 10. You, me, Clarissa, and Noelle. You will be here. Diana, I can't. Clarissa will. I know everything, Henry. I know about the $195,000. I know about the fraudulent application. I know about the foreclosure. And I have the certified bank documents. This isn't a request. You'll be here. I hung up. I knew he'd make her come. Fear of her was strong, but fear of total public ruin was stronger. The next morning, my apartment was pristine. I had cleared my large oak dining table, a restoration project I'd salvaged from an 1880s farmhouse. It was now a war room. Martin had delivered the packet last night. It was thick, heavy, and damning. I had it laid out, page by page. Aunt Rebecca arrived first. Mija, she said, using my childhood nickname. She kissed my cheek. You look like you're going into battle. I am, I said. Martin arrived a minute later. I'll wait in the study, he said. If she tries to lie, you just say my name. I'll be your witness. Then the doorbell. I opened it. They were huddled on the mat. Clarissa, her face a mask of injured dignity. Henry studying his shoes. And Noelle, her first time out of the house. She had a fading yellow-green bruise on her cheek, poorly covered with makeup. She looked thin, tired, and terrified. Come in, I said. My voice was cold, steady. They filed in. No one spoke. They walked to the dining table, and they saw the papers. Noelle gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Henry's shoulders sagged as if his strings had been cut. Clarissa. Clarissa's face went white. She recognized the official bank letterhead. She knew these weren't printouts. This was the real thing. Aunt Rebecca brought in a tray of coffee that no one touched. I remained standing at the head of the table. "What is all this, Diana?" Clarissa finally said, trying to muster her old defiance. "More of your drama? If you're going to accuse me—" "Stop," I said. The word cut through the air. "For once in your life, Clarissa, you are going to stop talking and you are going to listen." I tapped the first document. "This is a home equity line of credit for $195,000, taken out 4 years ago. This," I tapped the next page, "is the application, which lists Noelle as a co-signer, falsely claiming she lives at your property." Noelle looked at the paper, then at Clarissa. "Mom, what is this?" "And this," I said, my voice level, "is the signature page where you, Clarissa, forged your daughter's name." You can't prove that," Clarissa stammered. "I don't have to," Martin said, stepping out of the study. Clarissa jumped, not having known he was there. The bank's forensic team already did. "They call it internal fraud, Mrs. Anderson. It's a felony." Clarissa sank into her chair. "For 4 years," I continued, "I sent $100 a month to this house, believing I was helping you with the mortgage. That's $52,800, Henry." I looked at my father. "That money went directly to paying down this fraudulent loan. A loan you used to pay for what exactly?" Henry didn't speak. He just looked at his wife. "And then," I said, "there's the other loan, the $22,000 for Noelle's failed cafe. The one I co-signed and the one I have been paying back with interest for the last 18 months. Noelle's head snapped toward me. "What? Cafe loan? Mom said you just helped refinance the equipment. She said you offered." "Your sister co-signed the entire business loan, Noelle," Aunt Rebecca interjected, her voice quiet but firm. "When you defaulted, she became 100% liable. She has paid every penny." Noelle stared at Clarissa, the bruise on her cheek standing out in sharp relief as her face drained of color. You lied to me? You forged my name? You stole from my sister. For me." "I did what I had to do," Clarissa shrieked, her mask of dignity shattering. "To keep a roof over your children's heads, to give you a life, to pay for the wedding. Trent's family expected. We had to. I did it for this family." "You did not do this for me," Noelle screamed, leaping to her feet. "You did this for you, for the status, for the Riverbend estate. You ruined us. You ruined me." "That's enough." Henry slammed his hand on the table, startling us all. In 40 years, I had never heard him raise his voice to her. "That is enough, Clarissa." He looked at me, his face crumpled with a shame so deep it was painful to watch. "She's right. Every word. It's all true." He turned to me. If you want the house, Diana, we'll sign it over. It's yours. We'll move." The room fell silent. Clarissa was openly weeping, but these weren't her practiced, manipulative tears. They were the harsh, ugly sobs of defeat. I looked at my father, the man who taught me how to value old things, who had let his own wife rot his family from the inside out. "I don't want your house, Dad," I said, my voice weary. "I just want this to be over. I just want my money back." "The side lot," Aunt Rebecca said, stepping forward. She'd been quiet, just watching. "The house is on a double lot. That side lot is zoned separately. It's worth at least $80,000, maybe more in this market." She looked at Henry. "Mr. Miller's son has been trying to buy that lot from you for years, to expand his garden." Henry nodded, wiping his eyes. He has. He offered 90. "Then that's the solution," Aunt Rebecca said, closing a notebook. "You're not going to jail, Clarissa, and you're not losing your house. But you are going to sign a quitclaim deed for that side lot, transferring it directly to Diana. Today. She can sell it to Mr. Miller's son and recoup what was stolen from her. It's clean, it's fast, and it's final." Clarissa just nodded, her face in her hands. "Fine," I said. "Aunt Rebecca, can you—" "I've already spoken to a friend at a title company," she said. "He's waiting for us." I looked at my family, the mother who had stolen from me, the father who had enabled it, the sister who had been the beneficiary of it all. "I don't need an apology," I said, surprised to find it was true. "I'm not interested in your excuses. I just want peace." 2 hours later, we were in a sterile downtown office. The title attorney explained the documents with professional detachment. He didn't know the story, he just knew the transaction. Henry signed first, his hand shaking. Clarissa signed next. Her pen hovered for a moment, one last flash of defiance, but she met Aunt Rebecca's iron gaze and signed her name. I signed last. I accepted my copy of the paperwork. As we stood to leave, my father touched my arm. "Debbie," he whispered, his voice catching. "I'm so sorry. For all of it." I just nodded once, unable to speak. Outside on the sidewalk, in the bright, unforgiving sunlight, Noelle approached me. "I'll pay you back," she promised, her voice small. "The cafe money, every cent. I'm getting a job." "Just take care of your kids, Noelle," I said, turning to walk away. "Stand on your own feet, for once." I drove home alone, my windows down, the city air whipping through the car. 3 days later, a certified check from the sale of the lot arrived. $90,000. It didn't cover everything, not the interest, not the $22,000, not the years of my life, but it was a start. As I folded the check, I realized I had gained something more valuable, the freedom of no longer being responsible for them. A year passed. I sold my loft in Detroit and bought a small, neglected ranch house in a quiet neighborhood. I spent 6 months restoring it, not for a client, but for me. I sanded the floors, rebuilt the kitchen, and planted a garden. The work was hard, but it was clean. It was honest. On a bright Saturday morning, I sat at my new kitchen counter drinking coffee. I was reviewing my notes. I was volunteering at the Beacon Foundation, a nonprofit that ran workshops for victims of financial abuse. My first session was next week. My phone vibrated, a name I hadn't seen in months. Noelle. I braced myself, but the old anxiety wasn't there. Just quiet. "I'm starting to make payments on the cafe loan. The first one is small, but it's a start. Thank you for what you did for Eliza and Liam." I stared at the message. Through Juliet, I'd heard snippets. Noelle had left Trent for good. She was living in a small apartment, working 2, sometimes 3 jobs. She was, as I'd told her, finally standing on her own feet. I texted her back. "I'm free this afternoon if you'd like to visit." Her reply was instant. "Just me, we need to talk." I set a boundary and it felt natural, not selfish. "I have plans at 4 Sow." She arrived exactly at 2. Her car was an old beat-up sedan with a missing hubcap. No more luxury SUVs bought with other people's credit. She stood on my new porch clutching a small, polished wooden box. Her hair was its natural color. She looked tired, but for the first time in her life, she looked real. "You look good, Diana," she said, stepping inside. "The house is beautiful." "You look different, Noelle." 3 jobs will do that," she said with a small, wry smile. I led her to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of tea. No wine, no false intimacy. "This is for you," she said, pushing the wooden box across the counter. I opened it. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, was our grandfather's gold pocket watch, the one meaningful heirloom he'd left, the one I had asked for and been told was lost. "How?" I whispered, lifting it out. "Mom had it," Noelle said, her voice quiet. "She kept it from you, on purpose. I found it when I was helping them pack for their new apartment. Dad made her give it to me." I wound the small dial. The mechanism clicked, and then, with a surprising strength, it began to tick. "Time doesn't erase mistakes," I said. No, she agreed, but it teaches you when to stop repeating them. We sat in silence for a moment, the only sounds the ticking of the watch and the rain tapping against the window. "What did you do with the money?" she finally asked. "From the land sale. Aunt Rebecca said you got $90,000. I met her gaze directly. "I didn't keep it." You gave it back to them?" "No, I opened 2 college funds, one for Eliza, one for Liam. I put $45,000 in each." Her eyes widened, filling with tears. After everything we did to you? I don't understand." "I'm done rescuing adults, Noelle," I said, closing the watch. "Your choices are yours. My parents' choices are theirs. But the kids, they still deserve a chance. They deserve a foundation that isn't built on lies." When she left an hour later, we didn't hug. We didn't make plans for holidays. But as I watched her walk to her beat-up car, I felt something shift, like a bone, broken for decades, finally setting properly. That evening, I sat on my porch, watching the sunset. For the first time in 35 years, the only life I had to fix was my own. And it was, finally, in perfect repair. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.